Good day everyone, I'm Janan G. Kahuyang and my part is about the definition of the learner-centered teaching. What is learner-centered teaching? Learner-centered teaching is also known as student-centered or learning-centered teaching. It comes from the idea of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who said that teaching should start in what the learner is capable of learning and interested in learning. It also balances the power between the teacher and the student. It focuses on not on giving an information but also in the overall growth and the development of every learners. So sa madaling salita, ito ay isang pamamaraan kung saan ang atensyon ay nakatuon sa estudyante at sa kanilang pag-unlad. Hindi lang ito nakatuon sa pagbibigay ng impormasyon ng mga guro, kundi binibigyan din sila ng pagkakataong pumili ng mga pag-aaralan, kung paano ito gagawin, at kung bakit ito mahalaga para sa kanila. In this approach, students are not just passive listeners. They actively construct their own knowledge, ask questions, and responsibility for their learning. They learn by doing, exploring, thinking critically while also learning how to cooperate with others and work together. The teacher acts only as a guide or facilitator, helping them when needed instead of controlling everything. So dito, ang mga estudyante ang mismong gumagawa ng paraan para matuto, habang ang guro naman is ginagabayan lamang sila at hindi laging nagsasalita sa harap. Katulad na lamang ng ginagawa nating reporting ngayon, binibigyan tayo ng pagkakataon na magsalita, ilabas yung idea natin at i-share sa iba yung mga kaalaman na alam natin. So, ibig sabihin, etong binibigay sa atin na activity ngayon is etong reporting ay parang part na din siya ng learner-centered teaching kasi hinahayaan tayo na ibahagi ang ating knowledge at pag-aralan sa sarili natin ang mga aralin na to. So, dito, natututo yung mga estudyante na maging masino, papanuri at magkaroon ng sariling diskarte sa pag-aaral. According to Loveless 2021, its main goal is to produce students who are autonomous, independent, and lifelong learners, meaning they can continue even outside the classroom and throughout their lives. So, sinasabi dito na ang layunin daw ay makabuo ng mga mag-aaral na kayang mag-aral ng mag-isa, may sariling desisyon, at patuloy na natututo kahit wala na yung guro. So, kumbaga, nang i-apply yung mga natututunan sa mga nangyayari sa buhay. So, that's the end of my part and thank you. Let's proceed to the next topic.
Greetings everyone, I'm Mikey J.C. Calapini. So now, let's proceed to the role of learners and teachers. Students are active learners who take responsibility for their own learning. So, sa learner-centered teaching, student ang focus ng learning. Hindi lang sila nakikinig sa teacher, kundi active din silang nakikipag-participate. Sila rin ang nagdi-decide kung anong way nila gustong matuto. And kinoconnect nila yung bagong lesson sa dati nilang alam. Nakikipag-collaborate din sila sa classmates and minomonitor yung sarili nilang progress. So, sa role of teachers naman is, the teacher guides learning instead of simply giving information. Teacher is a facilitator or guide, hindi lang tagapagbigay ng information. Gina-guide niya din yung student niya. And nire-respect ang iba't ibang learning styles and opinions. Ini-encourage din niya yung students niya na maging independent learners. Cognitism. Cognitism focus on how the brain process and understand information. Ang goal is hindi lang basta i-memorize, kundi para maintindihan talaga natin yung isang lesson. So, information processing or social cognitive approach, kino-communicate natin yung clear goals. Ipinapaliwanag agad sa student kung ano yung lesson, bakit ito importante, and kung paano sila i-assess para mas maging prepared sila. Using attentions, getting device. We can use activities, videos, games, picture, or any interesting question para makuha natin yung attention ng bata. Kasi kapag wala sa atin yung attention nila, malaki yung possibility na hindi sila matututo from us. So, emphasize organization and meaningfulness. I-organize natin maayos yung lesson natin and i-connect ito sa real-life experience ng mga bata para mas maintindihan at mas maalala nila yung lesson. So, facilitate long-term memories. Active ang students sa discussions or they need to participate in the discussions para mas tumatak sa kanila yung lesson and mas matututo sila sa atin. So, constructivism. Student construct their own knowledge through experience. So, sila mismo yung gumagawa or bumubuo ng understanding nila through experience and exploration and especially dun sa interaction nila sa ibang tao. So, we have 3 types of constructivism. The first one is cognitive constructivism, kung saan nangyayari yung learning through thinking and understanding. The second one is social constructivism, kung saan naman yung learning is through interactions sa classmates mo or sa teachers. So, the third one is critical constructivism. Yung learning naman is ini-impluwensyahan ng culture, beliefs, and society. So, have elements of constructivism. So, scaffolding and ZPD, dito is sa umpisa tinutulungan mo yung student mo. Hanggang sa natututo sila, unti-unti mo nang binabawasan yung tulong mo sa kanila hanggang sa kaya na nila maging independent learner. So, next is discovery learning. Hinahayaan mo na yung student mo na mag-explore and mag-discover ng concept instead na bigay mo na agad yung sagot. So, they have their freedom. So, next is multiple viewpoint. Kung saan ini-encourage ang student na makinig sa iba't ibang opinions para mas lumawak yung understanding nila. So, next is relevant problem and task. Gumagamit ng real-life problem para mas meaningful and interesting yung learning. Next is autonomous learning, kung saan tinuturuan ng student na maging independent and responsible sa sarili nilang learning. Meron ding characteristic of constructivism. So, sa classroom is nagsisimula sa prior knowledge ng student, real-life and meaningful activities, student thinking critical and solve problems, may discussions and collaborations, teachers guides instead of lectures, technology supports learning, assessment includes projects, presentations and problem solving. Continuous ang assessment, knowledge keeps growing and changing. So dito sa constructivism classroom, student ang active habang ang teacher ay guide lang. So may mga challenges din ang pagiging constructivist teacher. The first one is conceptual challenge. Dapat maintindihan muna ng teacher yung constructivism bago niya ito mai-apply sa student niya. So, second one is pedagogical challenges. So, kailangan mo na dito yung gumagawa ka ng meaningful and collaborative activities para maging engaging yung pagtuturo. So, next is cultural challenges. Hindi lahat ng effective classroom ay traditional setup. Challenges siya sa common belief na mas okay ang traditional classroom kaysa sa non-traditional. Pero in reality, nakadepende kasi ito sa learning style and activities. Minsan mas effective pa yung non-traditional setups dahil creative yung nagiging learning style natin. So next is political challenges. Kailangan mapakita natin sa parents or administration na effective yung constructivist approach. Kasi like us noon nung nasa elementary pa tayo or high school, meron tayong evidence of learning. Meron tayong portfolio doon kung saan nakalagay yung mga outputs natin like project, presentation, and portfolios journals. So, doon, pwede natin ipakita sa parents yung mga outputs nila. So, makikita nila kung nag-i-improve ba yung anak nila using technology to support learning. So first one is helping student process information. So nakakatulong yung apps, videos, and organizer para mas maintindihan ng student yung lesson. So discovery learning, student mismo yung nagdi-discover ng concept gamit yung technology, like educational apps or games. Parang sila mismo yung bahala na mag-explore ng sagot. Then, guided discovery learning, same pa rin sa exploration. Pero may gabay siya ng teacher para halimbawa may pagtatanungan yung mga student kung sakaling need nila ng tulong or nalilito na sila. Problem-based learning, student ang nagsosolve ng real life problems gamit yung teamwork and critical thinking. Then gumagamit lang sila ng technologies kapag need nila ng research or i-present nila ng solution. So next is, or the last one is situated learning. Mas meaningful yung learning kapag connected sa real life situations. Ginagamit natin yung technology para ma-experience or ma-visualize yung real-world scenario. In facilitating meaning and self-regulated learning, we have strategies, plan meaningful lessons, explain learning objectives, connect lessons to real life, teach in small chunk, connect new ideas to prior knowledge, encourage different perspective, use technology, provide discovery learning, promote interaction and teamwork, include hands-on activity. So, ang goal nito is gawing independent learner ang isang student. Hindi lang sila tinuturuan ng lesson, kundi tinuturuan din sila kung paano matuto.
Good morning, my name is John Marcos Castillo and today we'll be dwelling or we'll be diving in a discussion of humanism approach, especially in the field of early childhood education. So when we say humanism approach, ang basic and simple meaning lang ito or idea is learner-centered, and it does not only look at the grades but also we are helping them to learn because they want to, not just because they are forced. We want intrinsic motivation to be instilled in them and to help them develop a motivation and responsibilities. So there are 3 pioneers here in humanism approach. We have Maslow, Rogers, Combs. So, but sa discussion natin, mas mag-focus tayo kay Maslow since yung hierarchy of needs niya yung mas bibigyan pansin natin all throughout the discussion. So let's now discuss the Maslow's hierarchy, especially the deficiency needs. It is considered 1, 2, 3, 4 levels before the proper learning of each children. So the first one is psychological. So ayan, yung mga psychological needs ng bata such as food, water, shelter. So, and of course, kapag hungry or pagod yung bata, hindi mag-function ng well yung utak nila. So in mainstream, pwede nating activity na ibigay or conduct or implement is feeding program, clean rooms, and ventilation matter. Kasi mahirap matuto, especially ventilation kapag walang proper air na mapasok sa room natin to be stuck. And next one is safety. Of course, our students must feel safe. We need to foster an environment wherein they are safe with all the materials. We need to make sure that all the edges were not sharp, and yung mga materials din such as yung gunting. For example lang, we need to ensure that yung gunting na ginagamit nila is hindi yung ordinary gunting na masyadong matulis, but rather yung child-friendly. Sa mga safety din, papasok na din dyan yung emotional safety, wherein we need to foster an environment, a positive environment to be exact, that our children will feel free to express themselves and to open up inside the classroom. With that, we are not just helping them to develop in cognitive, but also holistically, especially in the emotional aspect. Next one is love and belonging. So yan, connected din siya sa sinabi ko kanina. Our student must feel valued and safe inside the classroom for them to reach their full potential. So isa sa mga kailangan ma-practice natin sa early childhood mainstream ay yung pag-create nila, yung collaboration. Kunyari, kapag every morning, good morning mga bata, gano'n. Tapos good morning ma'am, gano'n. So kailangan gano'n siya. Kailangan lagi natin pinapractice in order for them to achieve their full potential and to develop in all the ways of development. And the last one is esteem. Need to be feel capable, successful, and valued. We give tasks just right, not too easy and not too hard. Praise effort and display their work. So if you're familiar with the positive reinforcement routine, kapag may nagawang tama, bibigyan natin sila ng reward, and by that, mas nabuboost yung self-esteem nila and mas nag-function sila well inside the classroom. And let us now proceed to growth needs, and this is under hierarchy pa din ni Maslow. So the first one is know and understand. So curiosity. So alam natin yung utak ng bata is punong-puno ng curiosity on kung paano nangyari ito, paano nangyari yan, and such. And we need to validate their questions whenever they are asking one, kasi doon sila matututo, mas na-adapt nila yung mga sinasabi natin whenever we are instilling them the knowledge that they did not have at that age. And the next one is aesthetic. Need for beauty, balance, and harmony. Applies to classroom design, art, and music nature. So, aesthetic is may apply natin siya sa mainstream ng ECE when sa mga of course, nabalitaan natin yung news na pinapatanggal yung mga creative designs and materials and walls, even in ECE, but you know, children are they learn the best way when they are being exposed in materials that they can manipulate. So, mai-apply natin yung aesthetic in your childhood by providing materials that they can manipulate, especially kunyari sa mga reading corners, ganyan, maglagay tayo ng mga designs such as storybooks, characters, so that mas naiinggan sila na magbasa. And by that, nade-develop din yung mga na-help din natin sila rather na mag-develop sa mga developmental domains nila. So the next one is self-actualization. So dito na napasok yung reaching their full potential. So nagbibigay tayo ng choice and nag-help tayo na mas ma-ignite yung passion sa kanila. Dito natin papasok yung problem solving and different ways to show up or to show learning rather. And the highest level is for self-transcendence. Still the highest level, it basically means go beyond self. Ito na yung nagsaserve na tayo ng others, nag-give back tayo sa community, and in early childhood settings, reaching their full potential or the highest level of going beyond self is of course, ma-reach nila yung dapat mga anong tawag doon? Mga kalakip na skills na dapat meron sila within or with a specific level of development. The question arises on how can we apply humanism in early childhood setting. So basically, we have, I think, 4 ways on how to be humanist teacher. So the first one is accept every learner exactly as they are. So when we accept them, they can freely express themselves and they will feel a sense of belongingness. They can reach their full potential and they can function well in the classroom. The next one is create warm, caring, and safe atmosphere. So ayan na din sinabi ko rin kanina na when they feel valued, when they feel safe, mas nakakapag-function sila ng maayos, mas nakakapag-isip sila, mas nakikipag-participate sila actively inside the classroom. The next one is guide and respect feelings. So of course we need to be we need to be sensitive, culturally sensitive, and we need to always foster respect or always give respect to one another. By that, we are fostering a respectful and culturally appropriate environment for our children. And for the last one is to always teach values. So, especially tayo yung mga early childhood learners, tayo yung mga pangalawang, or early childhood teachers rather, tayo yung mga pangalawang magulang na tumatayo after the caregivers. So, we need to always instill them the values that they should have na hindi lang dapat ginagamit inside the classroom but rather outside the classroom as well. Let's now proceed to social or cooperative learning. So, ang main idea lang dito is children learn best with and from one another. So, nag-what yung cooperative approach nito or yung social approach nito sa theory or sa social constructivism na mas pinapahalagahan yung interactive learning or interaction with one another. So, sabi, there are three types of reward style, reward structures in social approach. So, the first one is competitive. Ito yung win or lose, meaning to say may nanalo at may natalo. So, ito is maganda daw siya based on your study, but it is not recommendable kasi even if you succeed and others lose, nagfo-focus lang siya sa ability and discouragement kasi kapag natalo ka, diba yung nasa utak ng mga bata is of course, nakalagay dyan na, talo naman kami so hindi na ulit. So, something like that. So, they discourage sila whenever they feel lost. So, the second one rather, is individualistic. So, ito yung work alone. So, nakabase ang success mo sa kung ano yung kaya mong gawin. So, good siya sometimes for practice, but naglalak siya sa social growth or nagli-limit yung social growth mo and it lacks social interaction with one another. So, hindi siya basically ideal for social approach. And the best one is social approach na sinasabi nila ang best one daw na reward structures ay cooperative at yung win-win. We succeed together. Success of one helps called positive interdependence. So, ang pinaka-focus nito at pinaka-ideal niya is yung effortless cooperation. So, dito yung na-foster yung collaboration and teamwork sa loob ng classroom natin, especially if you have the serious education. So also there are essential elements of cooperative learning. So there are 7 at that, if I'm not mistaken. So the first one is mixed or heterogeneous groups. So 4 to 5 students, different ability, gender, and background. So if you were to apply the heterogeneous or the mixed groups in ECE setting, so kapag ginamit natin yung element na to is na-foster natin yung respect and pagiging culturally respectful ng one another ng mga bata. Kasi by giving them, by forming a group and consisting of different people with different backgrounds, we are fostering a sense of cultural mas na-help natin sila to learn how to respect different diversities inside the classroom and in one's group as well. So the second one is positive interdependence. Ito naman is nag-share siya ng same goal. So next is helpful interaction. So we need to teach, explain, and support each other. So especially in the field of ECE, pinapractice natin yung learner-centered. So meaning to say, we are teaching, but we are also learning from our students. So kailangan tinasupportahan natin, na-validate natin sinasabi ng isa't isa, especially yung mga bata is validate sa mga sa level na yan. So kailangan validated talaga lahat ng sinasabi nila. But with proper guidance naman, of course. Kasi we don't need to validate when we know it's not right. So, ayan, next one is individual accountability. So everyone contributes with life so sa individual accountability, we are giving them specific goals that they can portray in order for them to fulfill the sense of fulfillment rather. And second to last is social skills taught. So, dito at natuwa natin sila kung paano makapag-communicate, magtiwala, mag-desisyon, at mag-solve ng conflict. So, it is important na sa maaga pa lang ma-expose sila sa kung ano ang tama at maling desisyon na gagawin nila. And kailangan din ng proper communication, ng two-way communication, meaning nagkakaintindihan kayo, and such. And next is equal opportunity. So, kailangan fair tayo inside the classroom kasi there are instances na yung bata is nakaka-feel ng unfairness. So, we need to always foster a fairness. We all need to always practice fairness and apply it in our classroom. So, the last one is fair team competition learning. So, yun nga, bawal yung unfair na ranking. So, we need to be accountable. We need to be fair with one another and in all aspects. So, bakit nga ba nag-work ng best especially in early childhood education, yung cooperative or social approach. So kasi meron siyang tatlo. So motivational, cognitive developmental, and cognitive elaboration. So let's first discuss the motivational. So like yung encouragement and support from group. So kasi kapag nabibuild tayo or mas napo-foster natin yung collaboration and teamwork into the classroom, mas na-motivate sila, mas na-encourage sila to function well, to do well in their specific field that they are exploring. So, mas nagpa-function sila, mas na-reach nila yung full potential nila sa certain areas or sa certain disciplines. So, the second one is cognitive development. Interaction with others, egocentrism. Thinking becomes further and mature. So, naman, na-reduce yung egocentrism, meaning, naging instance sa kanila yung knowledge na lahat ay pantay-pantay at walang superior at walang inferior. So, yung thinking is mas napapalawak, mas yung understanding is mas malawak with certain things or certain topics rather. And for the last one is cognitive elaboration. So, when you explain to others, you learn better and remember longer. So, kapag nag-explain tayo, for instance tayo teacher, sinabi ko na kanina, we are teaching by learning. So, kapag teach tayo, natututo sa estudyante natin, and by practicing learner-centered teaching, pag nagsasalita yung estudyante natin, natututo natin yung mga guro. So, yun, two-way process of communication and teaching. And we need to plan carefully and ensure interdependence and accountability. And always, we should always teach how to work together.
Good day, my name is Catolico Jaya. I'm going to discuss the learner-centered psychological principles, cognitive and metacognitive. First, nature of the learning process. The learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. For example, the teacher gives each student 2 red bottle cups plus 3 blue bottle cups. The teacher will ask her student how many in total. Goals of the learning process. The successful learner, over time and with support and instructional guidance, can create meaningful, coherent representations of knowledge. For example, reading. The teacher will teach her student to read bat, cat, dog. And then, she will observe her learner for days if her learners have a improvement in reading. Number 3. Construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. For example, concept map, or even just a 2-minute think pair share works. New info plus old experience will give them to widen their knowledge. Number 4. Strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. For example, solving math. Draw 8 groups of 6 circles and count. Number 5. Thinking about thinking. Higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations facilitate creative and critical thinking. Best example for this is writing their name. Number 6. Context of learning. Learning influenced by environmental factors including culture, technology, and instructional practices. Best example for this is learner profile, demographics, age, skill levels, and cultural background.
Greetings everyone, I am Eliza May Rivera, and today I am going to talk about motivational and emotional influences on learning. Basically, motivational and emotional influences on learning refers to how child's motivations, emotions, beliefs, interests, goals, and way of thinking affect what they learn and how they learn. On motivational and emotional influences on learning, there are many factors that we can consider. First is the thoughts, beliefs, goals, and interests of a child. So, yung bata, kapag naniniwala siya na kaya niyang gawin yung itinuturo sa kanya ng teacher without help, is mas nasisikap siya na gawin yung mga bagay na yun. But kapag yung bata naman is iniisip niyang mahirap yung gagawin or hindi niya kaya, is maaari siyang mawalan ng gana. So, as a teacher, kailangan natin i-guide yung mga students natin sa pagkatuto nila. So, for example, kapag yung students natin is sinabihan natin na kaya nilang gawin or kaya nilang isulat yung pangalan nila without our help, is mas gaganahan silang gawin yung bagay na yun at mas naniniwala sila sa kakayahan nila. So, another factors is the students' beliefs about themselves. So, it is important sa mga students na naniniwala sila sa kakayahan nila na gawin yung mga bagay na itinuturo sa kanila ng teacher dahil kapag nagkaroon sila ng tiwala sa sarili nilang kakayahan is mas nagiging masipag sila na gawin yung mga bagay nila. So another factor is the positive and negative emotion. So we all aware na kapag yung nagkaroon ng positive emotion yung bata, tulad ng happiness, curiosity, excitement, is magkakaroon siya ng interest dun sa pag-aaral and mas nakakatulong yun para matuto yung bata. And kapag yung negative emotion naman, syempre kapag yung isang bata is natatakot siya or nagkakaroon siya ng doubt, galit, or kaba na gawin yung mga bagay na yun, is nagkakaroon siya ng, nawawala yung tiwala niya sa sarili niya. And mas nakakasagabal yun sa pagkatuto niya and sa paggawa niya ng mga bagay na dapat natututunan niya. So example, kapag yung estudyante natin is pinagalitan natin dahil mali yung sagot nila sa recitation, is next time kapag nagkaroon ng recitation is hindi na sila magtataas ng kamay dahil iniisip nila na baka mali na naman yung sagot nila. So next is the intrinsic motivation to learn. So it refers to the desire to learn because a child is naturally interested, curious, or enjoys learning. Hindi lang siya about sa dahil may premyo or natatakot sila sa parusa, but galing din ito sa curiosity, creativity, and happiness or willingness ng isang bata para matuto. So in intrinsic motivation to learn, there are also factors na kailangan natin i-consider. First is the curiosity. So it is a child's natural desire to ask questions, explore, and discover new things, and it is one of the strongest signs of intrinsic motivation. So for example, yung students natin is nagtanong sa atin na kung bakit nga ba lumulutang yung bangka, is dito nagkakaroon siya ng curiosity dun sa bagay na yan, and mas nagiging interested siya na matuto and pag-aralan yung mga bagay na ganun. Next is the flexible and insightful thinking. So ito yung ability ng bata to think and mag-isip ng mga creative ways kung paano niya mas susolusyonan yung problem nang hindi siya nag-give up. So example nito is kapag yung students natin is gumagawa siya ng tower using the blocks, is maaaring bumagsak yun. So yung bata is sinusubukan niya kung paano mas patitibayan yung blocks na hindi tutumba or hindi bibigay. So next is creativity. Ito yung ability ng bata na gumawa ng bago or new ideas gamit yung imagination nila. So next is the optimal difficulty and difficulty. Dito mas nagiging motivated yung bata kapag mas bago sa kanila yung ginagawa nila and mas challenging enough sa kanila na maging interested pero hindi sila mahihirapan to the point that they become frustrated. So next is personal choice and control. Yung bata is ginaganahan siya kapag mas binibigyan siya ng pagkakataon pumili or mag-decide dun sa bagay na gagawin niya. Next is interesting and personally relevant tasks. So mas interested yung bata kapag yung lessons is connected siya sa mga hilig nila or sarili nilang experiences. Next is appropriate complexity and difficulty. So, as a teacher, dapat yung mga gawain na binibigay natin sa mga estudyante natin is fit para dun sa mga ability nila para hindi sila ma-frustrate or mabagot. Another is real-world situations. So, yung mga estudyante natin is mas nagiging interested kapag yung pinag-uusapan or yung topic na tinuturo natin sa kanila is connected sa kanilang buhay. So, lastly is the individual differences. So, yung mga estudyante natin is mayroong difference in terms of interest, abilities, and way nila ng learning. So, as a teacher, kailangan natin mag-provide ng mag-fit sa kanilang abilities, interest, and kung paano sila natututo. So, next is the effects of motivation and effort. So, learning complex knowledge and skills takes time, effort, and practice. So, when children are motivated and they are more willing to work hard, practice consistently, and continue learning even when tasks are challenging. So, first factor is the learner effort. So, yung learning ng bata is kinakailangan ng sipag, tiyaga, and continuous effort. Dahil hindi lahat ng aralin or ng topic is natututunan lang siya sa isang araw. So, next is the guided practice. As a teacher, kailangan natin i-guide ng mabuti yung students natin dahil mas mabilis silang matuto and mas nagkakaroon sila ng interest na matuto kapag binibigyan natin sila ng enough na support. Next is the commitment to learning. So, yung bata, kapag motivated and nagkakaroon ng support from teacher is mas nagiging determinant siyang tapusin or gawin yung mga bagay na binibigay ng teacher or yung mga task na binibigay ng teacher. So, next is the purposeful learning activities. Learning activities should have a clear purpose and meaningful goal. Purposeful activities make learning enjoyable and increase children's motivation. So lastly is the interesting and personally relevant tasks. Kapag yung pagkatuto or yung learning activities ng isang bata is enjoyable and connected siya sa mga interest nila or experiences nila, they become more motivated na mag-participate and mag-put ng effort.
Good day everyone, I'm Denise F. De La Cruz and I'm going to report developmental and social factors. Developmental and social factors. Developmental influence on learning. As individuals develop, there are different opportunities and constraints for learning. Learning is most effective when differential development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domains is taken into account. Ang ibig sabihin lang neto, mas nagiging effective yung lesson kapag appropriate sa age and developmental level ng mga bata. Alam naman kasi natin na iba-iba sila ng development, like may advanced academics, while yung iba naman magaling sa social skills and physical activities. Kaya hindi lang tayo dapat mag-focus sa aspect ng academics. Kailangan din natin i-consider yung emotional, social, physical, and intellectual development ng learners. Social influence on learning. Learning doesn't happen by listening to the teacher alone. Mas natututo rin kasi yung mga student kapag may interaction sila with their classmates. Like, group activities, discussion, and collaborative tasks. Mas na-express kasi nila dito yung mga ideas and mas natututo rin sila sa perspective ng iba. Kapag positive yung classroom environment, like may respect and trust, mas confident yung learners na mag-participate and mag-share ng opinions nila. Individual differences in learning. Lahat ng learners is magkakaiba. Magkakaiba tayo ng abilities, experiences, learning style, and learning pace. For example, yung kaibigan ko, mas mabilis siyang matuto through visual presentation on completed materials. While ako, mas prefer ko yung hands-on activities and discussion. That's why important na gumamit ng iba't ibang teaching strategies para ma-meet yung needs ng lahat ng learners. Next is learning and diversity. Students come from different cultures, language, beliefs, and family backgrounds. As a teacher, kailangan nating i-respect and i-value yung differences ng bawat learner. Kapag naramdaman ng student na belong sila and respected yung background nila, mas nagiging motivated sila and mas nagiging komportable silang matuto. Lastly, standard and assessment. Standards serve as a guide kung ano yung expected na matututunan ng mga student. Assessment naman is not just about exam. Kasama dito yung quizzes, activities, performance tasks, and observation para malaman yung progress ng learners. Through assessment, nalalaman ng teacher kung ano yung strength ng student and kung ano pa yung kailangan i-improve. Nakakatulong din to sa mga student para ma-reflect din nila yung sarili nilang natututunan.
I'm Jerlyn I. De La Cruz from BSED 2-1. First one is knowledge-based. So, base dito, mas madali daw matututo ang mga student kapag meron na silang existing knowledge about sa topic na pinag-aaralan nila. And yung knowledge na yon is yun yung gagamitin nila as foundation para mas madali nilang ma-adapt or maintindihan yung topic na pinag-aaralan. So, for example, is meron tayong student na nakapag-practice na ng pagbabasa ng letter sound. So, by that, mas madali na para sa kanila na magbasa ng mga words, ganyan, or pangungusap. Second one is strategic process. So, dito naman, natututo daw yung student pag kaya na niyang mag-reflect or i-control yung sarili niya kung paano siya matututo. Once na nakakapag-reflect na siya and nakakapag-isip na siya ng mga strategy kung paano siya matututo, doon na nangyayari yung strategic process. So, for example, nagbigay ako ng assignment sa student ko and nung nandun na siya sa bahay nila, nakalimutan niya kung paano sasagutan ulit yon. And instead na huhulaan niya yung assignment, ang ginawa niya is binalikan niya yung notes niya and pinag-aralan niya ulit yung step by step na tinuro ko. Next one is motivation and affect. So, base dito, kapag motivated daw ang isang bata is mas active sila or mas na-encourage sila na mag-aral or matuto. Pwede rin ang reason is intrinsic motivation o yung mga bata is motivated talaga sila kasi nahook yung interest nila and nag-e-enjoy sila sa pinag-aaralan nila. Aside from motivation, important din dito yung affect. Kasi yung emotion ng learner is pag positive yon, mas nai-inspire sila and mas natututo sila. Pang-apat is yung development and individual differences. So, base lang naman dito, yung mga student daw is pare-parehas na dumadaan sa same sa developmental stage, but hindi sila pare-pareho ng way kung paano sila matututo. Kaya sobrang importante na yung teacher is appropriate yung ituturo niya sa mga pangangailangan ng isang student. For example, yung isang student, mas okay siya kapag or mas natututo siya pag video or visual yung paraan, while yung isang student naman is mas natututo siya pag actual activity. So, makikita lang naman doon na magkaiba yung way nila pero parehas silang natututo. Lastly is situation or context. Base dito, yung pagkatuto daw ng isang student or yung way ng student para matuto sila is hindi individually. But, nakaka-apekto din daw yung paligid nila kung paano sila natututo. Like sa school, yung teacher nila and yung classmate nila. Now, dito naman tayo sa teacher-centered versus learner-centered ayon kay Huba and Fried 2000. We can see in this table yung two ways ng pagtuturo, which is teacher-centered and learner-centered. On the first bullet, yung teacher-centered is yung teacher lang daw yung nagpapasa ng knowledge, while sa learner-centered naman is yung student yung nag-a-adapt sa sarili nila or nagko-construct kung paano nila maiintindihan yung knowledge. Sa second bullet naman, yung sa teacher-centered, yung mga student is nakikinig lang, while sa learner-centered naman is active yung mga student. Sa pangatlong bullet, sa teacher-centered is more on nakapokus sila sa memorization ng lesson, but sa learner-centered naman is nakapokus kung paano magagamit yung pinag-aralan sa real life experience or problem. Pang-apat naman, sa teacher-centered is yung role ng teacher is information giver and evaluator. While sa learner-centered naman, yung role ng teacher is mag-guide and mag-facilitate. And also, parehas sila na yung student and teacher is nag-evaluate ng learning. Panglima, sa teacher-centered, yung way ng teaching nila and assessment is magkahiwalay, while sa learner-centered naman is magkasabay. And pang-anim na bullet, sa teacher-centered, yung assessment is ginagawa para makabuo ng grade or magawa yung grade. While sa learner-centered naman, yung assessment is ginagawa para malaman kung paano i-assess yung student or matulungan yung student. Ang 7 na bullet, sa teacher-centered is mas nakapokus sila sa right answer, while sa learner-centered naman is mas nakapokus sila sa better na matututunan even merong error. Pang 8 bullet naman, sa teacher-centered is ina-assess yung student by score test or score sheet like exam, while sa learner-centered naman, ginagamitan ng performance or actual presentation. The 9 bullet naman is sa teacher-centered nakapokus sa single discipline, while sa learner-centered naman is pinagko-connect para maintindihan at para magamit sa real life. While sa pang 10 na bullet naman is yung teacher-centered, yung culture ng classroom is competitive, while sa learner-centered naman is more on helping each other. And for 11 bullet, yung sa teacher-centered, yung student lang yung learners, while sa learner-centered naman, both the teacher and the student yung learners. So, in short, sa teacher-centered is, yung center is yung teacher para matuto yung student, while sa learner-centered naman, both sila na learners pero yung student naman yung center. Now, dito naman tayo sa teacher-centered versus learner-centered instruction ayon kay Allen 2004. First one is teaching goals. Sa teacher-centered, ang goal is para makover lahat ng discipline, while sa learner-centered naman is kung paano i-apply yung discipline na natutunan and paano magagamit para makasolve ng problem. Sa organization of curriculum naman, sa teacher-centered, yung course or subject is nakaayos siya in a catalog. While sa learner-centered naman, yung curriculum is nakaayos para ma-develop yung knowledge, skill, and values ng student. Next, sa course structure. Sa teacher-centered is yung faculty or your teacher yung nag-cover ng topics, while sa learner-centered naman, yung student yung nagmamaster ng objectives. And for how student learn naman, sa teaching-centered, yung student natututo sila by listening, reading, and independent learning. While sa teacher-centered naman, learner-centered naman is, natututo yung student by connecting the new learning sa existing knowledge nila. And in pedagogy naman, sa teacher-centered, yung pagtuturo is nakabase sa pagbibigay ng information, while sa learner-centered naman is nakabase sa engagement ng student. In course delivery, for teacher-centered, lecture and assignment yung way nila para magturo, while sa learner-centered naman, active learning, collaboration learning, and so on yung ginagamit. For course grading, sa teaching-centered, yung teacher, yung faculty, yung gatekeeper and distributor. While sa learner-centered naman, yung grade is nagpapakita ng kung na-achieve ba yung learning objectives ng one student. While sa teacher role naman, sa teaching-centered, yung role ng teacher is siya yung nagtuturo. While sa learner-centered, yung teacher is yung designer ng learning environment and taga-guide ng mga student. And lastly, effective learning. Sa teaching-centered, ang effective learning ay yung nag-aayos and nagpe-present ng mga info. While sa learner-centered naman, ang effective teaching kapag active yung student at tumutulong para makuha yung learning objectives. So, to sum up, yung teacher-centered versus learner-centered ayon kay Allen 2004 is yung teacher-centered is naka-focus siya sa teacher while yung learner-centered naman is naka-focus sa student.